He did not know how long he lay there. Time lost its shape. Minutes stretched into hours, then folded back into themselves. The light in the room shifted slowly, crawling along the wall like a living thing. Raskolnikov watched it without really seeing, his mind drifting in and out of sharp awareness. At moments, he felt nothing at all. At others, terror surged through him so violently that he thought he would cry out. Every sound from the street below reached him magnified. A cart rattling over stones became a threat. Laughter felt obscene. Footsteps on the stairs sent a jolt through his body so fierce that he sat upright, listening, holding his breath. They're coming, he thought. They know. But no one came. His body betrayed him before his mind could recover. A fever settled in, heavy and relentless. His head burned. His limbs felt distant, as though they belonged to someone else. He drifted into half-sleep, haunted by broken images, the raised axe, a mouth opening soundlessly, the floor rushing up to meet him. At times he muttered aloud, fragments of sentences that meant nothing even to him. The door opened. He did not hear it at first. Only when a voice spoke did he realize he was no longer alone. Radia. Razumikin stood in the doorway, flushed and concerned, carrying the smell of the street with him. He crossed the room quickly and bent over Raskolnikov, peering at his face. "You're burning up," he said. "Why didn't you send for me?" Raskolnikov tried to answer, but the words tangled in his mouth. He turned his face away. Razumikin fetched water, fussed clumsily, talked constantly, about nothing and everything at once. He spoke of work he hoped to find, of people Raskolnikov vaguely knew, of the absurdity of the heat. His voice filled the room, warm and alive, and Raskolnikov hated him for it. How can you speak so freely? How can you breathe? He caught himself watching Razumikin's hands, imagining what they would look like if they were bloodied. The thought disgusted him. He squeezed his eyes shut. "Don't look at me like that," Razumikin said with forced cheerfulness. "You'll be fine, just a few days' rest." A few days, Raskolnikov thought dimly. A few days, until everything collapses. When Razumikin finally left, promising to return, the silence rushed back in. Raskolnikov lay still, listening to his own breathing, trying to remember how to exist normally. At some point, there was another knock. This time, his heart nearly stopped. A man entered, neatly dressed, reserved, carrying himself with an air of official calm. Behind him hovered a clerk with papers in hand. "Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov?" the man asked. "Yes," he whispered. "I am Porfiry Petrovitch." The name echoed in his head like a hammer striking metal. Porfiry's eyes were sharp, curious, almost amused. He did not sit immediately. Instead, he looked around the room, taking in the cramped space, the disorder, the young man lying pale and sweating on the sofa. "You've been ill," Porfiry said mildly. "I hope we're not intruding." Raskolnikov said nothing. "We only have a few questions," Porfiry continued. "Nothing serious, formalities." Formalities. The word burned. Porfiry asked about a debt, about a pawned item, about whether Raskolnikov remembered visiting the pawnbroker recently. His tone was casual, almost friendly, as though they were discussing the weather. Raskolnikov answered carefully, too carefully. Each word felt like it might betray him. He became acutely aware of his own voice, his pauses, the way his hands clenched beneath the blanket. Porfiry watched. Always watched. When the questions ended, Porfiry smiled faintly. "Rest," he said. "Illness makes the mind wander." When the door closed behind him, Raskolnikov lay rigid, staring at the ceiling. His heart thudded painfully. He knows, he thought. He must know. And yet, nothing had happened. That contradiction tormented him more than certainty would have. The days that followed blurred together. His fever worsened, then slowly eased. Razumikin returned often, bringing food, news, reassurance. Sometimes Raskolnikov listened. Sometimes he stared through him as if he were invisible. Letters arrived from his mother. He did not want to read them. He read them anyway. They spoke of love, of hope, of sacrifices already made and sacrifices yet to come. His sister Dunya was mentioned often, her strength, her determination, the difficult choices she was preparing to make for the family's sake. Each word felt like an accusation. What right do you have, he thought, to speak of justice? What right do you have to think yourself extraordinary? One evening, as dusk settled over the city, Raskolnikov rose suddenly from his sofa. The room felt too small, the air too thick. He needed movement, noise, anything to drown out his thoughts. He left the building and wandered aimlessly. The streets welcomed him with their usual cruelty. A drunken man collapsed against a wall, laughing to himself. A woman shouted at a child. Somewhere, someone played an out-of-tune accordion. Life, stubborn and indifferent. He found himself standing before a tavern without remembering how he had arrived there. He went inside and sat at a corner table, ordered a drink he barely tasted. At the next table sat a man speaking loudly, passionately, about crime. "Punishment comes," the man declared, slamming his fist on the table. "If not from the courts, then from here." He struck his chest. "No one escapes it." Raskolnikov's fingers tightened around his glass. He wanted to laugh. He wanted to shout. Instead, he drank and said nothing. When he finally left the tavern, the sky had darkened. The city lights flickered to life, illuminating faces that seemed strangely unreal. As he walked, a terrible realization settled over him, not suddenly, but with slow, suffocating certainty. He was alone. Not physically. People passed him on every side, but no one could share what he carried. No one could relieve him of it. The crime had sealed him inside himself, separating him from the living world as surely as death. And worst of all, he understood that this isolation was not temporary. It was the beginning.